Hey, what's good, comic fans? This is Confire Comics, and we're here bringing you another top three. This is going to be part one of our top three since we actually missed last week. Nate went on vacation, then I went on vacation. If you could tell, brother got a little toasty, been sitting at the beach, got nice and dark. But we finally got back. We're finally able to bring these videos, and since we're kind of behind a week, we're going to do a part one, and we're going to do a part two. So this is part one. And let's not hesitate anymore. Let's jump into this. It's been long overdue. I'm Confire Rich.
And I'm Confire Nate. And the first one we're going to talk about is Vader number 8. What did you think about Vader number 8, Richie?
Man, I really enjoyed it. I enjoy heist.
Yeah.
Right? And this is all this comic was. This has been set up for the previous comics where they've kind of went to this other outer rim arms deal or something like that, basically stole all of his money, all of his work, and took the ship off. And then Vader sends in this chick he's been working with to seize it. So she hires bounty hunters that go into this whole thing as just a pure heist. And I loved it. I loved it because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was coming next. I was like, oh man, they missed some of the money. They didn't capture all the money. And then all of a sudden you see that they go to this planet, and she had double-crossed these the bounty hunters and really had stolen all of it. I don't know. I really liked it because they've just funded themselves. So now anytime they need to go and hire bounty hunters to do a job, they just got the money.
Right.
They got the money to hire them. And the cool thing about it is the bounty hunters they're going to hire back are the bounty hunters that helped steal it in the first place, and they don't know it.
Like
so
they built a little working relationship with the bounty hunters. They got a little money, and then they don't realize that they actually took a whole lot more money out of the situation. They just going to use that money to pay them back. And the whole time, Vader's just kind of hanging out in the background, very, pulling the strings of this whole operation. He's got his little chick doing all the work, and at first I wasn't sure if she was doing this on her own. I mean, I kind of felt like Vader was going to be behind the scenes in some way, shape, or form, and he was, and the whole thing went down, but it didn't go down without a complete, not completely perfect, because it turns out that they actually think something's going on with that there was someone involved. So they got Vader going to have to basically hunt himself down, which makes me wonder if this is going to be when the relationship between him and that girl come to a close. He might have to, in order to cover up what he's done, he might have to take her out. Might have to point the finger at her.
Yeah. Did they say? I don't think they really said, because up until that point, when Vader goes back, you think that, man, he stole this money. The Empire thinks it was that they wrecked in an astral belt and the money just got lost. When they come to find out, it's like, well, that's what they want you to think. Somebody actually stole it. Then they bring in this new inspector.
Right.
And I was like, oh, now they, he got a, babysitter, if you will, to go and get this done. And I was like, this is actually going to be interesting. And he's not an idiot either. He's already said, he was like, well, you'll be quite useful, Vader, for where we're going because of your experience there. And Vader's like, well, what are you talking about? Dude was like, well, this moon dust, you was just there. I think if 24 hours later or something, this probably wouldn't be nothing you wouldn't be able to tell, but it has a very, contributing factor to letting you know it's from that planet or something like that. It was neat. So he knows Vader was there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's,
and then
if
it
that
just
was
kind of
his
cuts
way
off
of
after
saying, yeah, I know you're involved, but I'm not going to say you're involved. I mean, maybe this guy can be bought off. I don't know, but I mean, there was a moment there where I was thinking Vader was just about to put this guy down. Right there in that little room when he said that, Vader's just going to be like, stick his lightsaber in him or choke him out or something. I don't know. Like at that moment, I was just thinking, I could just see the wheels turning in Vader's head. What am I going to do? It's not like he's got a facial expression, so it's good how they're able to portray him trying to figure things out. Another thing I thought was interesting is that they're sending that crazy robot Akbar looking creature, Mon Calamari thing after Luke. Basically, he's going to be in charge of looking for the the pilot, the force sensitive pilot that destroyed the rebel pilot that destroyed the Death Star. And when he said that, Vader was like, "No, I want to do that." So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's kind of like Vader's like, "No," It was a very small glimpse of like fatherly, protection. Not even really, but just kind of like, "Hey, I don't want this guy going after him." So basically, Vader's got two things he's got to deal with. He's got to deal with that guy going after Luke because he doesn't want him to find Luke. He wants to find Luke for his own purposes. So there's going to be a showdown between Vader and that dude, and he's got this guy watching his every move now. So next issue is going to be exciting. Vader's going to have to start laying some.
It might be a showdown between Vader and that guy, and it might be a showdown between Luke and that guy. Luke might be able to, get a little fight in. So hopefully they bring in Luke. Obviously, I feel like they're going to bring in Luke, and maybe you have this, Luke Vader, type thing pop in and with these other guys. But Vader definitely has his own plans he's trying to work on, and now he's sitting here taking orders from everybody that's messing his plans up, and he's having to backtrack and do all these things. So it's getting to a good point.
It is. It's definitely
with this series, of course.
The next one we're going to talk about is, if you can see in the background right there, Fade Out number 8. Now, Fade Out is a very interesting comic. If anyone knows anything about Brubaker and Phillips, they've been working together forever. They've done a lot of great stuff. A list that I'm not going to mention right now because it's not important. But they are masters of doing things in that LA noir time frame, and they do it again. They're basically doing a comic about back in the LA during I want to say it's after World War One, maybe World War Two. I think it might be World War Two. I can't remember exactly. But basically, this is the film industry and all that goes on with the film industry, and it starts off with a murder. A young girl has been killed. That's how the series starts, and this issue is a little ways into it. We haven't talked about every single issue, but if you're caught up at this point, then you're ready to talk about number 8. And the interesting thing about number 8 is that Charlie is found himself in a situation. He's got him a little note. He doesn't know who has given him this note. And he's, again, chasing his tail. He's now found himself in a relationship with this other actress. And I'm kind of wondering if he's ever going to, decide. Because, he's obviously war-torn. He can't write since he's been in the war. So he doesn't have, but he has this feeling of needing to figure out who murdered her. It's constantly on his mind. It's constantly bothering him. So he's going to need to step up. And I'm wondering if this issue doesn't push him in that direction. Because now his buddy Gil has decided, you know what? I'm gonna blackmail these guys. And I felt from the beginning that Gil is just... I think Gil's going to get it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Gil... He's a loose cannon. Man, and I feel like Gil's going to get taken out. And I feel like when Gil gets taken out, that's when Charlie's going to step up. Even though him getting taken out would probably be a good thing for Charlie because he doesn't have to deal with all that crap. But it's also a bad thing because it is his friend. And he's also the guy that's been writing for him. So I think eventually it's going to lead to Charlie having to step up and figure out, who's doing this. And it turns out in this episode that in this issue, I'm sorry, that the one of the ladies at the party that he was at way back in the first issue when he was really drunk, gave him a little piece of information. It turns out the main actor was there with him. So another guy on the long list of who could have killed this lady. What did you think? Yeah,
it's so much, and it's what makes it very interesting. It's not a one-dimensional comic at all. It goes in all different places. Gil, he's not even really trying to blackmail him so much as it is he's just trying to stir the pot. He's trying to make them make a mistake. Trying to get them out there and see what trees he can shake loose. So you got Gil working his angle in a drunken stupor, and Charlie, he doesn't know what to do. He was going to end up having a love triangle thing going on. He's got Dottie, the PR chick. He's got the new femme fatale actress that's up and coming that he's all about. And then if what you say is true, if Gil does get it, I mean, his wife is all about Charlie already, and if Gil's out of the picture, she's gonna need consoling, and he's got all that worrying about. He's doing a rewrite. What I do think is interesting, as far as him having a writer's block, is that for whatever reason, when he had that weekend with that new actress, that he was like, oh, she's like a song. He's looking into her soul. He's looking into her eyes. He's, forming a relationship. I think she might break him out of his writing stunt. I don't know if that plays a factor in this at all, because it's not so much about the movie yet that he's making or his writing.
Right.
But I just got the feeling that it's going to help turn him into a new man. He's getting in fights. He just got in that bar fight. You can tell he's starting to get fed up. But this movie's got, this movie. It should be a movie or a television series. But it's got like that LA Confidential feel to it. You got that security guard who's just roughhousing everybody up. You got the old guy who's a big wig who's just, pulling all these strings. And like it really gives you, it feels like it gives you a glimpse in that time era, and that it's nothing that's happened has been like, oh, that's so fake that couldn't happen. It just seems like even with the fake relationships and them buying a car and how they're staging all the. I'm really big into movies, so reading about this is almost like an historical event. Right. You've got Clark Gable popping in, and they're they're just mentioning all these old movies and stuff, and it's like Citizen Kane and stuff. It's just really, man, it's really well done, and I'm liking this comic a lot. And I just sat down and read all 8 issues back to back, so it all kinds of run together for me. But it was good. With Tina putting a note in there, them trying to figure out who this guy is. Still don't know who he is or what role he plays, if any. But people getting blown up, and it is a murder mystery. It's interesting because you got a writer who writes murder mysteries in a scenario where he's involved in a murder mystery, and him trying to figure it out. So it's an interesting take on the whole story itself.
And it feels very real. Because like you imagine, you got this one actor who turns out that he's gay at a time when being gay is not okay and is not acceptable in any mindset. So they know he's gay. So the security is like behind the scenes. He still has his little relationships, but they're like, listen, it can't get out. You can't let it get out. We're making money off of you. So it feels like something that could very well have taken place back in the 20s or 40s or whenever this is taking place. I think it's 40s. I think it's after World War II, because it would make more sense.
What it kind of reminded me of? And this is another interesting element that makes it this, normally if you're reading from like a third person's perspective, you already kind of know what's happening. And it's just watching the characters put the story together. But since Charlie had this blackout and this, I don't know if, and I guess that's why they call it fade out, is because he keeps having these flashbacks to that night. And earlier on in the series, there were interesting things when he was having a dream and people's turn around, but they didn't have any faces and stuff would be blurry. And I thought it was a very interesting take on his dreams and him trying to remember in different pieces here and there. It kind of reminded me of Memento. I don't know if anybody here that's going to be watching this video has seen Memento. A very good movie, but it essentially is kind of the same. This guy doesn't remember. This is a lot more extreme in the movie, but still, when you're reading this, like, oh, he's finding little pieces, and he might end up remembering something that he doesn't really want to remember. He might be involved in some kind of way, instead of him just being the guy figuring it out. It's interesting. It keeps you, wanting more, and they're finally getting to where it's each issue when they end, it's like, I'm ready to read the next one now. Well,
I always thought that fade out, that I might be wrong. I thought the term fade out was an old movie term for when the movie transitions, or when it goes from the last scene to close, what they call the fade out. So if that's the case, you could say if this is the fade out, then this is the final act, the finishing end to, who knows, this guy's career, this guy's life, I don't know. Or it could be a transition. I mean, there's a lot of different, parallels. The name versus the story could be put together. So either way,
sure.
I mean, they hit a home run. I mean, these guys have been writing comics for so long that when you start reading this comic, it doesn't feel like you're missing anything. You might go through an issue where you're like, man, I really want to know about something. Well, they're not going to drag it along forever. They're going to give you a little bit at a time to fulfill you, but still drag you along, or not drag you, but bring you along and make you want to know what happens next.
Yeah, it's probably something I get benefit from going back and rereading, because the only problem I had starting the series out was that you're lost because they introduce so many characters, pivotal characters too, not throwaway characters. There's a lot of main characters going on in this, and a lot of little side stories that's happening. And before you know these characters, you don't really keep up. Like, a name is just a name. You don't have a face to it. You don't have anything to really back it up. But now that we're in issue 8, when they mention somebody's name, you know exactly who they are and what they do and what they're about. And so I may end up going back and rereading some of the first ones. And it probably really, not that anything's unclear, but it probably helps stuff stand out, about who was where and what was going on with the name, since now I know all the characters. Right. And that's cool. The little, the thing they put up at the beginning, I really like. It lets you know, like, who's going to be involved in this issue. You'll have the characters and their name and what they do. I don't know why. I think that's a neat little thing they got putting in there.
Yeah, I like that too, because it just kind of says, okay, here's the scene. Here are the people in the scene.
Yeah,
again,
exactly.
Referring back to old movies, it's kind of like, here are your main characters, and here's a little piece about them underneath to let you know who they are. This is so and so head of security. This is so, and I like that, because I think that helps remind you, and that might be something they meant to do in the beginning, is because you do, like you said, have so many main characters throughout it. They want to remind you, hey, here's this guy. This is who he is. Remember who he is. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just another helpful reminder to remind us, these are the main characters that you need to be following, and just to kind of, remember this guy. Remember this guy.
Yeah.
So, and I like that too. So, so the next one we go to is We Stand Guard number 2. Now, number 2 came out. Number 1 came out a little while ago. I got caught up on both of them, so we're going to be kind of talking about both of them. But this is a new comic from Brian K. Vaughan, who many of you might know from Saga. And I'm excited to see what he does, because, I mean, if you read Saga, Saga has won so many awards, it's crazy. Vaughan did, I think, some X-Men back in the day, and maybe some Wolverine, maybe not X-Men. But We Stand Guard is a new comic from him, basically about a resistance group of Canadians who are fighting the Americans. It's interesting to have a comic where we are the Americans are the bad guys. And
right.
It's kind of funny to think of Canada as being any type of like resistance or a fighting power to begin with, because Canada is just, you don't think of Canada when you think of a world power.
When you think of freedom fighters,
right,
fighting against the U.S., Canada's not one that just comes to mind instantly.
But it's an interesting comic. I like it. I like, they slowly but surely they put a little development in at the beginning to the character, the main character. This girl seems to be the main character. Her brother and her got separated. They were there for the very beginning of this ordeal when they were young. They've been together ever since. Her brother is captured. It doesn't show it, but he has been captured. And she ends up meeting up with these resistance fighters in Canada, and they pull her along. They bring her along for the ride. So this comic, off the bat, the first few things I think about is just it's interesting how most of the fight that takes place from the American side is done with robots. I guess maybe that's because for them in this futuristic time frame, it's something I feel like could be a possibility in our future, is where most of our battles are done.
You see
with
where
robots.
everything's going with, with drones and unmanned, vehicles, and they're building rovers, and they're building all this kind of stuff now. And it's interesting that you got this. It takes place, 20-something years in the future. And
it feels real. It feels like, I mean, not that we'd actually
Yeah.
go to war with Canada, but if we were going to go to war in, you know, way in the future, I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if
The
most
war
of it's done
tactics,
by robots. Because, I mean, you're not going to lose, you're not going to have high casualties, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, it all seems very, you know, realistic, except for the part of us fighting Canada. But with that being said, if you remember at the very beginning, someone had bombed or done something to the White House. So there was a big explosion. If you remember that from the very first issue, they were watching on TV. Someone attacked the United States first. And then all of a sudden, Canada got hit. So that leads me to believe, without them saying, that somehow they thought Canada was involved. So I could see that happening now. You know, let's say, you know, we get bombed tomorrow and we're like, everything points to Canada. We're going to be like, Canada? All right, you know, and we'll go in there and start, you know, kicking heads in.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me, but it's interesting because I mean, I don't remember a comic where Canada was, you know, freedom fighters, or where Canada was pivotal, you know, besides, you know, a character being from Canada. So I think it's interesting. What did you,
Yeah,
what
it
did you
was.
think about
It's
it?
definitely a weird take. Everything I read, it's like, man, you know, the U.S. are the bad guys and stuff, and you almost forget about the very opening scene of this whole comic in the first place. Like, you attack the White House and blow up the White House, somebody's gonna die. There's no way around it. Somebody getting blown up. I don't care who gets the finger pointed at them, they's going down. And you see the U.S. just pull out all their might. I have to be honest, I was actually kind of disappointed that they jumped. Like, I thought this is where the story was going to be. Like, these were the main characters they were setting up, was, you know, this father and this mother. Because she was just like, I'd lose my security clearance, and, like, she's being phoned, but she's touching her cheek, her eyes turn green, like she's talking, you know, through her head, or, you know, with the technology and stuff
like
they got now. So
lenses or
her mom was somebody in the intelligence community. You know, like, her mom was somebody. They weren't just regular people.
Well, and that might
she said something
that
about
might
losing her
play a
security
factor in
clearance.
later, though. We don't know that for sure.
It's 100% going to play a factor. It has to play a factor. But I was disappointed because I was involved right after when they blew up, and then her father's all, you know, broken and bleeding, and I'm like, oh, like what? And then they jump forward, and it's this chick again, and I was kind of, you know, kind of gave me the feel of Lazarus, you know, this wintry, you know, fraction that's out here, you know, fighting robots, and you got this the lead character's a woman, and, you know, you know, executing people. I'm not so sure she's not who she says she is. Like, she might be a spy or working a different angle or something like that.
It's
I
possible.
just, you know, just like that guy's saying, it's like she's been out there in the wilderness all by herself for that long, and she's not battle worn. Like, she was, you know, I don't know.
It's possible. It could be that her.
I think there's more to her.
Could be. I never thought about that. It could be that.
Oh, what did real quick before we wrap this up? What did you think about the dude's story about Superman?
I like that.
About him being Canadian and everything.
I like that they threw that in there. I thought that was cool. You know, a nice little comic book reference. You don't get those a very lot, but I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot. I thought it was neat.
Cool. That was a neat little thing. But those are our top three for last week, and so it was United We Stand, 2 issues in, Fade Out, 8 issues in, and Vader number 8. All 3 really good. Obviously, I'm going to go with Vader as my favorite, and then Fade Out I really like just because I enjoy that kind of stuff. But that's it. Hey, follow us on Twitter at Campfire Rich and Campfire Nate. Like, comment, subscribe, get in the conversation. Let us know what you think about these comics, and, you know, what you think's going on. Any ideas you have about this? Put them down in the comments. Hit us up. And until next time, we out.
See ya.